Okay, we're live.
Hi guys. Hi.
Hola.
Hola. We are coming to you live from our beautiful retreat center here in Mallorca in Spain. And it's so nice.
It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, we're super happy to be over here in Europe. Kate and I have been here for a couple of months, doing some work with clients in Europe. Claire's joined us for the month of July, and we thought we'd open up the Hub webinar today to some public crew as well, because we've had a lot of interest to connect with us locally in Europe, and particularly on the relationships pillar. So one thing I'd say, if for those that are interested about what we're doing here in Spain, we'll dive into that later on in the webinar, and also some really good perks. So stay around to the end of the webinar and we'll chat a little bit further about that. But today, the webinar is based on relationships, and it's one of our 12 core pillars of health for the Health and Hub community. So you want to dive in?
A big warm welcome to all our Hub members. I hope you've been enjoying the relationships pillar. It's one of our favourites. It's one that I go over every year again. And for anyone that's new, welcome. And we're super honoured to have quite a lot of people on here, so that feels great. So what we wanted to do is to give you guys kind of a really healthy framework, not to only think about you in your relationships, but how you really show up in your relationships. Because how you participate, how you express, and how you communicate inside the relationships that you're in, whether it's a marriage, whether it's family, whether it's colleagues, with your children, siblings. There's so many different relationships and dynamics that we all have and that we all participate in on a daily basis. And it's how you show up inside of that really concretes the quality of the exchange. And to do that, to look at how you show up instead of just, I buy her flowers, or I write nice cards, or I'm really present, or I do everything she asks me. That's not necessarily the kind of thread we're going for here. Showing up is being in witness consciousness and allowing you to be in your best version of you. And to get a really deep understanding of that and a really deep grasp of that, what we need to understand within ourselves is how we deal with stress and how we cope with stress. Because the people that are in relationship with us, especially the people that we're living with, working with, in connection with on a day-to-day basis, they see us when we are under the effects of stress. Any stress I'm talking about here, it's not just emotional stress or you're going through a hard time in your life. It could be, your car's broken down, or there's a bit of financial stress, or there's something going on in the family, or it could be a physical thing that you're going through. And so what we want to do is to give you some framework to explore how you deal with stress and what your default kind of patterns are, and then how that eventuates and affects your relationship, so that we can increase the quality of the relationships that you have. So this framework is something that I have been used personally for, I would say, the last 5 or 6 years. We use it as our team in Natural Instinct Healing. I use it in my marriage. I use it in the way that I show up with my kids, my family, everything. And it's been a real game changer. It's really, really simple. And it's just really good to have these little maps, so that we can go, oh yeah, I'm behaving in this way. And then we're conscious of what's going on. Because when you're under any type of stress, like I said, the actual stressor, the thing that's creating stress, it doesn't really matter what that is. What matters is how we respond or react to that. That's the real mastery and where the real wisdom piece is. So this framework is by a lady who I respect and adore very, very, very much. Her name's Sylvia Bornstein. She's an author. She's a psychotherapist, a Buddhist teacher. I love all of her books. She's got a podcast. I just binge listen to anything that she says. She has a lot of mindfulness practices in very, very great terms, and she talks about relationships a lot, which is really, really cool. And she did this huge study in really looking at different types of people, so across gender, age, religion, cultural backgrounds, society backgrounds, really broke down division of the human race and really got into the fundamental ways in which us as human beings, whether you're a single mum in Africa or whether you're, you know, a high-flying CEO in France, for example, we all have these same fundamental default coping mechanisms in how we react to stress. And there's 5 of them, and that's what we're going to go through now. So I'm going to get Pat to share the screen. The first one, so just so you can see it as I'm talking about it, the first one that we have is fretting. Now, fretting is that stressful, sorry, just bear with us for 1 second.
It'll be up on the screen. You'll see us.
Okay, great. So, so fretting is that energy where you're just like, let's say, for example, your car has just broken down and you've got to get to work, you're late, you're on the side of the road, maybe your phone's out of battery, and that fretting energy is, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God, this is so bad. And it's like this full drama straight away. It's a very erratic, very spontaneous, very just reactive energy. Nothing gets really problem solved in this space. Nothing really gets worked out. It's just like this kind of noisy anxiousness, fretting energy. So in the car broken down scenario, which I'll use to explain all of them, it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Then my car, and this energy is just there and it's being felt in the body and it's being experienced in the mind, but it's not actually solving anything. It's not actually getting you to where you need to be. And it's a very dithering kind of moving, like I said, like this spontaneous energy. You guys want to add anything into that?
No, I mean, the only thing I'd add is that it's really easy to see it in other people play out. You know, like I know of a friend in Australia, and like I know that her default is fretting, and you can just sit back and watch it. Sort of, it's just like this energy. There's no point to it. You know, it just goes around in circles, and it becomes sort of a bit of a snowball, and they just lead on to other things that, had they sort of removed themselves from that energy at the start, then it wouldn't have sort of snowballed.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just like you're not in your physical body at all. You're just like going around in your head and making up this huge story that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, it's very busy and
yeah.
The second one, so the second default is getting angry. So we can all see this quite a lot as well. When the car's broken down and you're like, you know, I would swear here if it was my personal story. Like, oh God damn it, this stupid car. I hate when this happens. This always happens. It's a very aggressive energy. It's very, we all know what anger feels like. So it's just this like, oh God. And it's hard, like the shoulders tense, the jaw clenches. You know, I would be, like I said, swearing. Like it would be just, stupid car, stupid highway, that guy cut me off, the mechanic that didn't, you know, all of that kind of, that like real anger response.
Yeah, I guess I certainly default into anger, and I guess the one thing that I've noticed is that it sort of shuts down all possibilities. So you sort of, you can, when you watch someone do it, or I'm aware of when I do it, it's like a film comes over, and then you're sort of knocking out all possibilities from that point on until you lift that veil.
Yeah, it's almost like a trapdoor, like something just comes over you and you're just like confined to this space, and you can't think out of this space, and you just like have so much heat and fire in there.
And you can see when someone is responding in anger, you cannot communicate with them. It's just like you know, it's almost like you can see the steam coming out of their ears, like how it's portrayed in cartoons sometimes. It's very standoffish and like just get away. It's not inviting it to go and, you know, open up communication pathways. So that's anger. The third one is I'm just going to make sure we got the same order. Losing heart or feeling defeated. So this one is very like, oh, this is all my fault. I'm never going to get to work. Now I'm going to lose my job. Oh, my kids aren't going to get picked up from school. I'm never going to drive again. It's like you're giving up everything before you've even gone into problem-solving mode, before you've even considered other options. It's just complete defeat. You know, and the way that I always explain this when I'm teaching, it's like Eeyore out of Winnie the Pooh. It's like, like really like giving up on the whole world, and really giving up on, like just feeling so heavy and defeated when all that's really happened is your car's broken down and it can be easily solved, you know. But that losing heart is, there's lots of story creation around that. It's lots of, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough. This is my fault, a little bit of victim energy, and just really, just feeling like the whole weight of the world's just come crashing down, instead of, this is the problem that I'm in right now. What are the solutions or arrangements that I can make around that?
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I'd comment on that one, I don't know whether it's from a personal perspective, but I can feel that kind of energy has a tendency to pull people into it.
Yeah.
So, you know, the car example, I would respond very differently, but if there was someone taking a lead with that energy and that environment, then I could probably feel myself getting pulled into that defeated mentality. So, from my experience with relationships and that, I certainly feel that if someone comes in with that energy, then I have to really anchor myself away from it, or it can be like
it's very contagious.
Yeah.
And I feel like with that kind of energy, there's a lot of underlining sort of things that make you feel defeated. So a lot of kind of maybe unprocessed emotion or something like that that's kind of built to this point where like the tiniest thing happens and it's like the world is over.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Number 4 is personalizing. So when we personalize our stress, it's like it's all about me. It's all my fault. So the car breaking down, I knew that I shouldn't have done this. I knew I should never have bought that car. I'm an idiot for buying that car. I'm an idiot for taking it to that mechanic. I shouldn't have driven this way. I should have listened to Siri and gone the other way. I should have, it's all my fault, me. This is all because of me, and making it all my own. And I guess this one, the personalizing one, you see in response and reaction to other people. So for example, that would be like someone else's car broke down and you're making it all about you. You know, like, oh, this always happens. Now I've got to go and help that friend, and oh, I've got to take off my lunch hour, and I've got to go and drop petrol around or gas around to them. And when really it's not, it's not really about you, if that makes sense. It's a very me. It's like a blaming, like my fault. This always happens. Again, it's a little bit of that victim energy, but you can see it when you're responding to other people's stress. Like, okay, they're going through something stressful, but how is that going to impact me? And the people that go into their own personal story about it.
Yeah, I guess for me, the feeling that I get is like it's quite granular. Like they're not looking at the bigger picture of the fact that it's just an alternator on their car's broken, and it's a common thing that happens to a lot of cars in that instance. They're sort of getting really finite into their own muck, and they're not looking like, they don't have the expansiveness to look at the bigger picture that's happening.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just kind of reflecting at the moment of my mum, because she just broke her arm in like yesterday she's here with us, and how she kind of responded to what was going on was like everything was her fault. Like she shouldn't have put her togs there. She should have picked them up. You know, she should have gone out this door instead of that door. Like everything was her fault, when really it was just, you know,
a slip on the floor.
A slip
that
on
can
the
happen
floor,
to anyone.
an accident. Yeah.
So that's personalizing. And then the last one that quite a lot of us are familiar with is self-soothing, or that search for sensual soothing. So what that means is really, this is not nice, this situation. I want to get out of it straight away. And I need something to take me out of that, to give me a little sweetness, a little sensuality, a little hit. So for example, you know, your car's broken down on the side of the road. It's like, oh, quick, I need a cigarette, or I need some sugar, or I need a glass of wine, or you know, I need this. I'm in my pain body right now. I'm feeling a lot of stress right now. I'm feeling a lot of reactivity. I don't like feeling this, so I'm going to take myself out of it in some way. Like jumping online, jumping on social media is another way we do that. In biggest stressful situations, it's looking at things like drugs, alcohol, nicotine, sex, you know, different ways that we try and make ourselves feel better when really they're not necessarily the most healthiest options for us. So, I mean, grabbing a glass of alcohol is something that's kind of tolerated behavior, I would say. Like, oh, I just need a glass of wine after that, or, you know, and everyone's like, yeah, I know that feeling.
And it's almost like everyone encourages you to. Like, have a scotch. Yeah, that will fix everything.
Yeah, and it's interesting just going out and asking those of you online there, we're getting back sort of some feedback around that.
So we've got some
self-soothing.
Getting angry.
And some fretting. So I guess it's a good point to make that obviously often we feel all of those things in amidst the one moment, but often I would say you tend towards one rather than all of them. So
and it's different on the situation as well. Like there is different reactions. You know, for example, if someone's, you know, come in and abused you, or you know, done something that's really quite aggressive, like naturally we try and meet that energy, and so it could be like getting angry is your default, when normally you'd be like, I don't know, like a self-soother, but you just can't in that situation. So it's not like I get angry and that's your only reaction to stress. There's so many different variables. There's so many different subtleties that play in here. But knowing these 5 reactions and knowing how you interact with each one, and ones that you're most likely to react to, and one of the easiest and best ways to identify it, because sometimes we're like, I never get angry, I'm not angry at all, I just, you know, go with the flow. Ask the people around you, you know, give them the five options, and say, you know, when I'm stressed, what one of these categories do you see me fall into the most, or what 2 or 3 of these categories? And like I said, it's not like you have 1 or you have 2. I personally feel all of them. I'm definitely go into the feeling defeated and the anger. Like they're my 2, I know, and especially with my children. When there's like that kind of, you know, my kids are 2 and 4, so there's lots of tantrums and there's lots of expression, and there's, you know, lots of things that it's chaos. And I tend to, when things are up and are triggering, stress is there, it's in the room, I tend to go into that anger straight away, and it's not necessarily how I want to react. It's just that natural default that comes from somewhere too. So I guess having that framework is really important when we're looking at doing what I would call relationship autopsies, which I think are really, really crucial to do. And I'm laughing because normally we do relationship autopsy when the relationship is over and you're like, that didn't work, I didn't like that. But it's something that I feel we need to do when the relationships are still alive all the time. So in a marriage, for example, you know, it's not something to do at the end of, okay, that partner's gone and what did I learn about myself? It's like, okay, I'm in this connection, I'm in this communication, and what am I learning? What's not working? What's working? What do I need to do more of? What do I need to ask for more of? Like, these are all the things that bring that relationship from functional to optimal. And knowing your 5 default patterns and how you react and engage helps to really increase the quality of the relationships that you have.
I think that's a really good point, what you said, kind of reflecting while you're in the relationship, because a lot of the time we only reflect once something's over, and then you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, there's a lot less growth from reflecting after the event's gone and transpired.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think this extends particularly to like your really close network families, and it's about like not so much like what's wrong and how can I sever ties or anything like that. It's about like where's the growth for you and the other people in the relationship through being aware and understanding how they respond to life and what life throws at them.
And I guess like when you're on retreat with us, we share a lot of our personal stories. Even right here, like Pat's my husband, Claire's my sister, like there's a lot of relationships. And so we just wanted to give you guys a bit of an insight into how this framework works with us, how we personally use it, and how it's changed the quality of our relationships. So do you want to share?
Yeah, I was just like, when you're talking, I guess I was reflecting on, because my lead would be to like go into anger, whether it's a situation, you know, whether it's with the kids or with my wife or with family members. But one thing I guess I was reflecting on is like, how do I get myself out of that and to lift that veil that sort of like closes down? And one thing I do often is like I try and do something physical to like reprogram, and for me it's just like running water over my hands. Like if I'm in a situation with the kids and it's just like getting too much, you know, which is probably on a daily basis, then I'll just like slowly and quietly not eject myself from the situation, but just like move, backpedal, moon dance out to the kitchen or whatever, turn on the tap and just like run water over my hands to have like
That's what you're doing in there.
That's a good technique.
I do it often.
You must have very clean hands.
But it just like, it helps to like recircuit and give me like a physical sensation shock to awareness that I'm just like diving into that anger.
I think like the first step always is awareness. And that's why we have this framework, is because, okay, I'm getting angry right now. I'm feeling a lot of anger right now. And instead of, you know, criticizing it or trying to change that straight away, what you really want to do is put some buffering around that so that the damage isn't huge. So for example, like what Pat shared with the anger flying off the handle and letting that turn into rage and spitting fire on everyone around you, and then you've created more suffering and then you feel worse after that. So I guess one of the questions that I have for you guys, you just shared you're washing the hands, is what buffering techniques can you give yourself in that moment to create a little bit of space between you and the reactivity? So, yeah, you go.
I was just thinking back then, like when we were going through the 5 and how much might have actually changed from when I was younger. Because I feel like when I was younger, I was really shy and I would keep a lot of things in. And that just kind of like built up to this like crazy anger. So like,
and it does, yeah.
Seen and naked.
We're laughing because it's true.
Yeah, but I would actually kind of get like praised, I guess, for not reacting in a situation. And I would literally like just cop everything and just stay like quite calm and still until I was like with my family or like someone really close, and then I would just have this rage because I was so what's the word, suppressed, because I wasn't kind of, it was like I was voiding the stress that was coming in, which isn't really healthy either. And it was just like, I was like, no, I'm fine, until like the tiniest thing would happen.
Yeah.
And if I was around my family, it was all their fault. And like seeing how that's kind of, because I guess I was, I'm a lot more aware now, but the thing that I still have or still comes into my life is definitely the soothing. Like after, I don't know, something happens, I will need to go and like eat a big meal or like have a glass of red wine. Mine's more food than alcohol, I feel.
Yeah, and we all have different things. And again, when you get to the end of that, the end of the bottle of wine, or you've eaten that whole block of chocolate, or you've had that whole loaf of bread, or you've just called up that ex who you never wanted to see again and just needed to feel good about yourself in some way, you're always left with a hangover of some kind, because it's not really fixing anything. All it's doing is taking you out of your pain body, but you're actually creating more energy around that. So so that buffer one for me, definitely as I can relate to self-soothing, is just reminding myself, like, do I really need this? You know, do I, like, I ask myself that. And sometimes it's like, you know what, I had a really big day today. I just want to unplug. I want to unwind, and I'm going to have a glass of wine, and I'm going to feel really good about it. But if I'm going to the fridge, like, where's, I can't get the wine out of the bottle quick enough, I know it's not going to serve me. And so one of my buffering techniques for that particular one is, do I really, really need that? And that's, a lot of that is to do with food as well. Something that I will always crave is sugar. And it's not a big part of my diet. I don't have it very much. Of course, you know, it slips in there occasionally. But I know that if I eat that, I'm going to feel crap afterwards. And it doesn't really, it makes it even worse, actually.
Yeah, I think a big part of, and anyone that's online here, I know there's some people online that have come on our retreat. A big part of the retreat is like we take all that away.
Yeah.
So like we see it on every retreat, the dynamics of taking things away from that self-soothing, and then you're left with what's left. And then I think that's what you reflected on earlier, is that perhaps there's like some underlying core things that are building up to lead you to that point.
Yeah.
So doing the work on those underlying issues as well is a big part of like how you respond with these stress environments, and then that has a massive impact on the relationships around you.
For sure. And I guess when you like do truly start to bring this awareness into your body, how you react, and understand how you react, you can kind of step away and give yourself that space, because it will come in and you'll be like, oh, okay, this is happening. This is the soothing coming in. And you can actually just give yourself a little bit of space, because I feel like that's how I respond now, is really giving myself space. Because when you're kind of in that stress response, you're so tense, and you're not in your body at all, really, and you're so in your head, and it's just like adrenaline takes over and you do things that you probably wouldn't normally do. And so just taking that little bit of time, like stepping away, like how you ask yourself the question, I would do like some deep breaths just to like bring myself back down, and actually like asking like how is this feeling, or how am I feeling, instead of like, what do I want, what do I need? It's kind of more asking your body than your mind, I would say.
Yeah, and it's super valuable for like within a relationship environment for me to know that's how Claire responds to stress, and to know, you know, perhaps I wouldn't you know, in that situation, say, Claire, just go and have a few big deep breaths. But to know that if I'm witnessing
don't tell anyone
her
to calm
do that,
down,
then I know that I just step away because I can see her in the corner having some deep breaths and like just working through that. So to know how the ones around you respond in that environment is like super valuable for your personal relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just being really honest as well is really important. Because with me, I've had a lot of like physical sickness at the moment, all the first half of the year really, and I've needed like a lot more space than I would normally need. And for me, just telling people like, hi, my name's Claire.
I need space. Don't talk to me.
But just letting them know that like I'm still going through some physical symptoms at the moment, and I need more space than I normally would. So I'm going to go have some time by myself. Yeah, it's just that makes me feel better because I don't feel like guilty or I don't feel bad for not wanting to be around someone.
Yeah.
And it also helps them to understand why I need space as well. So I feel like being like really honest is really important in relationship too, but not being like, I need space from you. Like it has to be from like that space of like compassion and respect for yourself and for them as well.
Yeah, it's just clear communication of your needs. And the thing about stress is that it always has a life force, you know, and whatever the stress is, it might be there for 2 minutes, it might be there for 2 hours, it might be there for 2 weeks, but it will run its course because everything is shifting and changing around us all the time, including us, including our cellular biology. And you can see this in children when they have a tantrum. And they'll just be like in this full energy and it's full body and there's sweat and there's tears and there's all kinds of stuff because, you know, for whatever reason you ask them if they wanted a drink of water and then it just set everything off, and you will see it play out. And if you don't engage in that energy, and it's not like you stand back and just watch it, but if you're not contributing to stirring up that energy, it will run its course. And I see my kids are my biggest teacher with this all the time because they will just completely fly off their handles, and anyone with little ones, especially toddlers, will know. And then they naturally self-soothe. Like that's what our biochemistry does. When there's a peak in cortisol, when there's a peak in adrenaline, we have that energy come in the body. And then when we get the biofeedback that it's okay, I'm safe, then our nervous system starts to come down. If we don't get that biofeedback of it's okay, I'm safe, then we don't calm down. So for example, the fretting energy, if you're on the side of the road and you're fretting and you're not in mortal danger, there's nothing, you know, that's going to kill you. It's not like you're being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger or anything's happening, but you're keeping that adrenaline and that cortisol pumping through your body by the way that you're reacting to it. So if you just give yourself a minute in that situation, not even a minute, 10 seconds, where you're like, okay, I'm safe, like I'm not going to die right now. And then just really putting that message, that chemical message in the body, your body will naturally start to self-soothe. That's what it's designed to do. And what that looks like in the biochemistry is going from flight or fight, which is that stress response, into rest and digest. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to die. My car's just broken down. I'm going to be late. My boss is probably going to be a bit angry, and that's okay. It's actually out of my control. So that reaction and response it's so crucial, not only to the way we engage with the biochemistry of it in our own beings, but the way that we engage with it in relationships. And quite often, you know, when I'm doing private work with people, there's so much damage around them that's being caused because of the way that they react to certain situations. And it's not the situation in itself, it's their reaction that's causing more suffering, more pain, more stuff to just mop up afterwards. And that's essentially what damages relationships. That's the stuff is what you know, it exhausts us on many different levels, our levels of love and compassion. And, you know, you can be so in love with someone and just give them everything, but if they're just pushing you again and again and again and again and again and again and again, like years and years and years and years, there is always a moment where we hit the glass ceiling and it's either like, I can't do this anymore, or enough, like, you know. And so in terms of looking at that in the quality of how you show up in the relationship, it's really you cleaning up your side of the street, so to speak, and coming in really present and knowing that, yeah, I behave this way when I'm stressed. And if you could even help me with that, like just remind me, or don't say that to me. You know, something I always tell Pat when I'm like getting a little bit, I'm like, don't tell me to calm down because I will punch you in the face. Use other language, because that's only going to aggravate me even more. But if he comes in and says, you need some time, like just go outside, or here's a drink of water, or just something, I know he's there, I know he's seeing me, I'm not being judged, and I'm not being you know, ridiculed in any way. I'm being validated, actually. But it's after that energy, that life force has run its field and that stress starts to come back and my biochemistry starts to come back, I'm in a safe space. And really, this is all about safety, because when we are stressed, we contract. And the reason that we contract is because we don't know whether we're safe or not. So any stress response, it's initially a safety aspect. So another buffer that I use constantly is telling myself that I'm safe, like no matter what's going on. And of course, that's not always true. Like if there is someone chasing you down the street with a knife and trying to rob you, you're not going to say, it's okay, I'm safe, it's all right. You're going to freaking run, and you need that stress and you need to like get out of there. But in situations where you know, someone's cut you off in traffic, someone's late to an appointment, your kid got sick, something happened, it's the day-to-day stresses, and it's how we respond to those is what really affects the quality and of how we show up in our relationships.
Yeah, I think a key point of that also is like understanding what is in control and what is not in control. Like as you were talking about, you know, I was just like reflecting on traveling and knowing that our family always has about an extra 10 kilos from what we purchase online. So managing what's in your control would be, you know, I just book an extra 20 kilos wherever we go. And I know that reduces the fretting of my wife, because I know in that environment with that stressor, then that's going to be a stressor. So managing what is in your control, but then having an understanding of what is beyond your control is also equally important.
Yeah, definitely. And just helping people engage with you when you are under stress. Like for Claire, for example, I know she needs a lot of space. So I'm not going to text her every 5 minutes. Are you okay? What's going on? Can I help? I'm just like, okay, I'm here if you need me. And you, like, she knows I'm there. She knows I'm present, but I'm not going to contribute to anything. Whereas, you know, other friends, for example, you know, some people get really needy when they're stressed, and it depends on the situation. And I'll be sending them 4 or 5 texts a day. I'm here. Do you need anything? Do you want to talk about it? You know, so it's our responsibility to really ask and let those people closest to you, let them know our needs in that situation. And if you can do that in the moment, that's fantastic, you know, like, but when I'm in that fretting or personalizing energy, I can't say, I just need a moment. I'm just like I just need to find other ways. So it's really good to have that conversation with your partners, especially the people that live in the same house as you, the people that you see on day-to-day basis, because it just allows for those connections and communication channels to be there and to be open and to be present, that you're not controlling them or trying to micromanage them when you're trying to micromanage your own response to whatever stress is coming up.
Yeah, it's a great tool to do some homework. I mean, that'd be the homework to take away for this month for this webinar, is like engaging with someone in a close relationship to you and chatting about those 5 things and just nutting out and seeing how they're going to respond in a future event and them understanding how you're going to respond. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this.
Making sure you are doing it like not when you're stressed as well, being like, what are your stress responses now? Like making sure it's
oh, you're getting angry.
Is there anything either of you would add to the conversation?
I think just talking from personal experience, it has profoundly affected my relationships. Like even with clients, you know, when I see their stress responses back, you know, 5, even 10 years ago, I used to take a lot of things really personally of how people would engage with stress. And now I just know, okay, I can see what's happening now. You know, I can see they're fretting or they're blaming or pointing, and it's actually got nothing to do with me. So it's just a really, really helpful tool, and it's really enhanced, I would say, the quality of my relationships, because when someone is stressed, you just want to take them out of their pain. Like you just want to let them know that everything's going to be okay, and they just a lot of the time cannot hear you because of the personalizing, the blaming, whatever is happening within them. And so being able to express my concerns or just support in a way that I know is being received, even though they're in a contracted state, it's really, really valuable. And especially for me, like being able to really communicate my needs and have those people around me know me, so that you know, it's not always up to them to get to know us. It's up to us to express how we feel, so that we can all live in more harmony, basically.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is that communication piece, and really kind of being honest with how you're feeling and being honest with yourself as well. Because sometimes, like especially in a relationship piece, like if something's happening and you're getting angry or you're self-soothing, or you don't want to admit that to yourself. So it's kind of like being super honest with yourself and being honest with whoever, you know, you're in this relationship with, whatever relationship it is. But yeah, sitting down and having that kind of conversation is, for me, has been like profound in the relationships that I've had, especially with relationships like back home, like older relationships, because I feel like the more I kind of do this work and the more people that I meet, they're on the same kind of path and wavelength, so they're a lot more aware. Whereas people back home, I feel like we've grown apart almost in a way, but having that honest conversation and still having that connection with them has just been so profound with those relationships that I probably don't see on a day-to-day, so they don't know the person that I am now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The only thing I'd add for me in the topic is like getting the best out of one another, like, and whether that's with like team members and staff, or whether it's with like family and stuff. You like, what you're really doing is getting the best out of one another and serving each other by having an understanding of how you respond and how that affects the relationship.
Yeah.
So that's us from Spain. Talking relationships. I know there's quite a few people online here that have been messaging me privately and chatting about what we're up to here in Spain. So for those that can't make it to Spain, you're welcome to tap out now. For those that are staying on and still online, we're hanging around in Spain for another month. We've got the next retreat with availability is August 3rd to the 10th, and we're hosting a fasting detox retreat. So it's a 7-night program. It's all inclusive. It's at this incredible residence where we are here. It's called Sion Retreat Centre.
It's very, very
amazing.
Beautiful, really healing energy. It's been so special after operating in Bali for the last 9 years to bring this program to Spain, and having done a couple now. Our August is the last chance for this year. And we're not sure if we're going to be back next year or not. That's still in the pipeline. So come on over.
Yeah.
For anyone that's in Europe, we're super close, and we'd love to welcome you and love to work with you.
Yeah, if you're super interested and you can make those dates, if you'd like to flick me an email just with a Viva España as the subject, or get me to Spain. And if you want to send it to hello, HELLO, at naturalinstincthealing.com. We've got a couple of perks that we're running for that August retreat, because we certainly want to see everyone here. It's an incredible spot. We're literally looking up to an ancient monastery that's looking down on the retreat centre. So like the energy and the space has been beautifully set out. And so we're super excited to get into another retreat in August.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks for everyone online, and we'll chat soon.